Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Brightworks and another top level match of Beyond All Reason. Today I've got the king of the charts here. It's the Ragna himself, representing the blue team here, which I do notice is down a player, by the way. Representing the blue team here with 63 true skill and a rank of his own. Gonna be showing us what he's got for us in the naval field. Going up against, with 40 true skill to his name, silver bars, it's gonna be, there he is, Lost Dead Man, another content creator, another very, very talented Beyond All Reason player. And today they will be showing down on Cape Violet version 1. This is a really rare map. I feel like I haven't seen this matchup very often, but it is a really cool one. So I'm excited to see what goes down here today. Okay, so it looks like Ragna has taken over this commander down south, as a player did not join in time here, and so he will be the one going for the Southern Command as well as the Northern Command. Now, normally that's a very, very difficult thing to do. You're splitting your attention between two completely different sides of the map, but if there's anybody who I think is going to be able to pull it off, it's going to be the king in the Viking helmet himself. This commander will be wearing the Viking helmet. There it is. It'll be Ragna. Now, the reason this map is so interesting, as you can see here while I pan across it, is because there are sort of these two land bridges that are connected through a little water channelway. So you can get some naval units in here, boats, submarines, any of that sort of stuff can swim around in this middle connector area, but also you can, of course, cross. It is shallow enough that it can be crossed by bots or vehicles, anything like that as well. So very, very wide array of tactical decisions, tactical options available to everyone playing here. And so I think it should be a whole lot of fun. Lost Dead Man going for that naval start here. Tidal power is up to 20, which is pretty good considering the wind speed goes up to 20 as well. Getting that consistent energy for 85 metal is pretty good. 21, I believe, is the efficiency you need to beat a fusion reactor. So 20 is just shy of a fusion reactor, but it's really hard to beat that immensely efficient, stable economy, right? You can just continually scale those energy converters off of those your production while you're claiming those metal extractors, and in the end you're going to be in a really solid position here. As far as aggression goes, looks like I'm going to have to award the official Brightworks Getty unit across the field and out and about over to Ecclesiarch here. Had to read that name in my head before I read it out loud. Ecclesiarch going to be getting a goon across the map. That is the Cortex hover tank. I'm going to try and eat it up here. 2-second hero trying to digest that goon, but it does not taste very good. Very rubbery. A lot of rubber on a little hovercraft like that. Firing away with its adorable little snozzle. It's essentially a tick strapped to a computer fan. But yeah, it manages to get the job done. At the very least, shutting down some of the production here for 2-second hero. Kind of taxing the APM at the very least, even if it wasn't able to do any economic damage per se. Submarine is out here, and that'll be quite good for shutting down any of these boats that are trying to cause a rumpus in the room here. Yep, there goes a Riptide. Well, any second now. And down it goes. Yeah, that's a great pick. Already 250-ish metal right on the side of 2-second hero, so he's going to be able to benefit from that immensely. In the backline here, we also have Space Doge Man, a player that we've seen in and out of a couple of our games here and there on the channel. Very excited to see them playing in the naval theater as well. You know, it's really interesting. This map goes for a lot of naval players. You really do need quite a lot of them. It looks like 3 is kind of the de facto. I wouldn't even mind, though, if some of these players back here would step into the water rather than going for hovercraft. I mean, hovercraft are great, but there's such a massive area right here in the center of the map where naval units can just be so effective. You can just park a destroyer out here, park a couple missile corvettes out here. You're going to be able to lay siege to enemy bases for quite a long time. Commander will be sacrificed by Wrong 48 here, trying to eat up that metal to probably tech up here, I'm guessing. And right now, just storing it, focusing on getting an economy up and running. I don't hate it at all. There goes the T2 lab. There we go. All right. Right on time to get that T2 out around the 6-minute mark. That's sort of the de facto standard that we've been becoming used to now. A couple of construction boats eating apart some of these supporters. It's pretty funny. Pretty funny method of attack, disintegration. Hovercraft are quite pesky for navies to deal with because the torpedo launchers, which are quite effective against any sort of naval craft, are completely ineffective against hovercraft. So you have to weigh your decisions against whether it's worth going for these. You can see these torpedo launchers do not fire on the hovercraft. They float above the surface of the water, and therefore the sonic sensors inside of those torpedo tubes cannot detect them. I don't know. I'm making this all up as I go. Yeah, hovercraft again being such a pain over here. They can just shut down the static defenses so easily, and the only way to build static defense that works against both ships and hovercraft is to go for those standing heavy laser or floating heavy laser towers. But then of course those are vulnerable to torpedo launchers, or submarines as they're called in the business. So it's a very, very tricky thing to balance here. There are a couple of bots that were thinking about going across the map. It looks like they will head on back home, trying to regroup here, maybe trying to poke it a little bit of damage. You really don't want to get caught in this choke point here, because if just a single Navy collapses on top of you, yeah, it's gonna be a bad tray. Navy essentially always beats any sort of land units, be it vehicles, be it bots, be it whatever. Yeah, Navy almost always trades out positively against them. Navy is just so much more powerful. They're very tanky, they do a ton of damage, and you're usually going to have quite a lot of them because it's pretty important here. Whoa, looks like I missed, who was that, crop rotation? Yeah, looks like crop rotation's commander did go down here. Oh no, it wasn't crop rotations, I guess it was 2-second hero. Hard to see with that water in the way. I know there's a way to command to change the water level, but sometimes I feel like it's a little more distracting than it is useful. Anyways, 2-second hero's commander does go down here, and all that metal goes right into Ragna's piggy bank. That's a dangerous player to have a bunch of metal fall into the control of. That's certainly not a comfy place to be. Ragna has used this extra commander over here, by the way, to just build a massive economy. So going for tons and tons of windmills. I'm going to exclude these just so we can see how many windmills that is total. Not you, not you. There we go. All right. 68 windmills total. That's 2,500 metal for about 1,000 energy. A little less than that, closer to 800. That's pretty great. That is a tremendous efficiency, actually. That is way more efficient than fusion reactors. So that's well worth the investment, I would say. Ragna's going to be looking at a phenomenal economy here. He has the economy of 2 players, so it makes sense. But sometimes it's really hard to manage that, like I said. But again, somebody as skillful as Ragna, I'm sure they're going to be able to pull it off. Supporters here. Very, very nice. Like I said, supporters versus goons, like Navy is basically the top dog as far as matchups go. If you can get your Navy engaged with basically any other army, you're going to be in a really fantastic position. Lost Deadman anchoring up down here, building a little bit of a radar station. Might hold here, maybe help north. Must be referring to his teammate in the water there, Jonte22001. Who's trying to get a little bit of engagement here, but these Riptides are just tearing apart the Dolphins from long range. Yeah, that's really the problem when you go into those Dolphins, is if you don't scale enough of them quickly, you can your enemy can out-snowball you with Riptides, especially with the reclaim that they can pull off of your corpses. Yeah, it becomes uncontrollable very quickly. We can see the Seekers and taking a decent engagement here. I mean, the surround is fairly good, but still, those are just Seekers going up against Riptides. They have very heavy armor, and they fire pretty quickly here. Do a decent amount of damage and fire quickly, which basically means that they're going to shut down those Seekers there with little to no damage overflow. They're not going to be wasting shots, in other words. Ragna has paused military production. Are we going for eco expansion in the back? Well, we're going for a bunch of energy converters. Always worthwhile, especially if you've got really wind efficient maps. Consider plopping down 6 to 12 energy converters. You're going to be in a really good spot as far as metal goes after just a little while of those producing for you. It's easy to forget that your entire team contributes to the energy, well, of the entire team. But that can mean that you can stop your team from wasting energy and instead turn it into metal. You're going to start producing a little bit more, and that's all going to spiral back into a nice little position there. Destroyer is out here to try and shut down some of the static defense that Ragna is going up against here. Nicely done, although it's not quite sure where it's being targeted from. Not really sure where to point its guns, but it is doing its very best for the time being. Vendor here has gone a T2, passed up to him. Yeah, it looks like it was handed out from the back here. Wrong 48 went up to that T2 lab. That's what we saw the commander being sacrificed for, being cannibalized for, is to, yeah, get that T2 economy up and running. And the metal extractors are up, which is quite nice. And now the T2 is being handed out all over the place to everyone on the team. Very lovely to see. You're definitely in charge of that, right? If you're in the back line and you're ecoing, consider not having people pay. I mean, you can ask that people send you metal just to speed up the process, but your responsibility is to make sure that everyone has a T2 constructor, since they're paying for your safety by producing units and whatnot. It's a little bit backwards sometimes. It's easy to forget that if you're on the front line, you will at some points in time have access to more metal than people in the back line, just because you're essentially not going to you're essentially, well, you're taking engagements, right? You're taking fights and assuming you're trading well. That's the caveat there. You have to trade well and you have to hold control over the wreckage fields, which is tricky, but not impossible. It's a skill to master, to say the very least. But once you do so, you're in a really fantastic position and you can actually tech a whole lot quicker. You can even keep up with the backliners, which can be a bit awkward when you're teching up to T2 and you end up getting it out even before they do. It's rare that that happens, but on occasion you can really press a leading advantage into some sort of a victory like that. Love the Januses here. They're one of those units that can fire up over this little hill right here. You can see that this is a inclined surface. They definitely don't suffer the same penalties as the plasma projectiles do, where they kind of have to fight against gravity to shoot those up and over the hill, right? Januses just fire and forget, and they tear down a couple of those light laser towers, starting to whittle away at the defenses here for Vendor, but the Navy is moving in. Oh, they have to retreat. Your boys got to get out of there, otherwise this hovercraft naval mixture is going to ravage all of your forces here. Can the Januses shoot out of the water there? Oh, okay, they can. All right, that actually makes this a little bit better. Sometimes if the water is just a hair too thick, you won't actually be able to shoot with your vehicles. It looks like that is not the case here, at least for these Januses, which will repel a lot of that army. Now, I still think these hover tanks and those frigates could have crushed this vehicle army, but the question is, would it have been profitable? And I don't think I don't think it would have been. I think it would have been mostly a fair, if not slightly advantage towards the red team trade. But there would have been no way for the red team to reclaim, whereas Sensible Insane already had the commander here and he could have just eaten up the metal. So all things considered, I think it was probably the right decision not to engage there with these forces and instead just keep them postured to make sure that the middle of the map doesn't get pushed in too heavily here. Seaplane's coming up in the back line here for Ragna. He's decided that the stagnation here on the front line is a little bit boring and instead going to try and break it. Probably going into some bombers, maybe a gunship or two. These cutlasses are very powerful. They fire a dual burst riot cannon that can do quite a bit of damage on the ground. Certainly if you mass them well enough, they can really start to tear through things. Any air players in the backline here for the red team? Doesn't look like it, no. So no air players, that's actually a critical oversight here. Now, the blue team has done an excellent job of hiding all these units. In fact, I don't know if they've even seen any of these fighters here. Doesn't look like it. Yeah, so the red team is completely unaware of the fighters that are going in here. That's actually a really, really big problem. With a lack of scouting like that, and you just don't know that there's a bunch of fighters in the backline, as well as now a bunch of bombers, a bunch of seaplane bombers. Yeah, that'll be a tricky thing to hold on to here. Hopefully we get some AA out. The AA hovercraft are quite nice. They fire a little 3-round burst, very similar to the way that the chainsaw or the ferret does its damage here. Another big push through the middle of the map. T2 is already out here, but those tanks, I mean, enough time they're going to be able to whittle down essentially anything you throw at them. Yeah, trying to daintily press around here, trying not to get caught in a bad position, but it looks like the bombers are rolling out. Ragna and Ayin, or Ayin? Is it Ayin? Either way, both of them are deciding to move out here. They're going to try and fly the fighters over. They don't encounter any fighter resistance, which is a great sign for them. Ragnar dropping some of these bombs here. Yep, going to drop those bombs and try and kill that constructor. Not going to get the constructor, apparently, but at the very least, scaring that poor fool back there. A couple of tidal generators under siege here. Oh, these dam busters are so powerful. They drop that massive cluster of bombs so they can really specifically target various structures here. You can see the fusion reactor is the next target, and it will go down insanely quickly. Taking off about 30% per bombing run here, more or less. And yeah, it doesn't take long for a fusion reactor to get completely melted away at this point. Yeah, it looks like Ragnar sees the fusion reactor over here as well and will send the bombers in. Gonna shut that down, lickety-split. Not going to be much standing after that. You can see just how efficient this bombing is, though. I mean, the fighters shutting down basically everything and then using these bombers to take out all of the critical infrastructure. It's exactly what I would expect from such a high-level player. You're just, you're not wasting a single bomb on anything that doesn't need to be bombed. especially with these dam busters too, specifically. These are so good at targeting exactly what you want to bomb here. Gonna go after this poor T2 constructor and his hovercraft pals. Well, yeah, it looks like some seaplanes were built here. Are those seaplanes or are those? Yeah, those are seaplanes built from the orange player. Looks like he went for a seaplane lab up here on the front lines. Eventually those bats are going to be able to shoot down those bombers, but that is more than enough damage to justify that aggression here. And now you can see Ragna already transitioning as quick as possible into a T2 naval lab, using that brief hiatus in the naval aggression and the bombing run in order to fund the T2 lab. Excellent little push down here. We've got a destroyer starting to march in ever so slowly. Destroyer is starting to try and whittle away at those other enemy destroyers here in NIFI 69's front lines here. It's quite nice. And more fighters, more bombers rolling out here. Of course, those T1 fighters don't really compare too well against those T1.5 seaplanes. I always feel weird when I say that because it's not true. But it's also not clear like exactly what the right answer is to that, so it's just take what you can get, right? I call them T1.5 because they're slightly better than the T1, but they're not quite as good as the T2. 1.5. Anyways, bombers take out a little bit of power production here, a couple of windmills. Not as juicy a bombing run, but also there wasn't as juicy as targets as the first run around here, so I'm not sure that there was really much more that could have been done here. Maybe taking out the labs, maybe some of this AA that was really clustered together would have been possible to break all that down pretty easily. Either way, lightning tanks are now leaking in here, and you can see those T2 Buccaneers, the cruisers for the Cortex faction, are making their way out onto the high seas. It's a difficult game once you see those going up. And Sensible Insane, by the way, is pushed very far forward with the commander. Very nicely done to get some damage in here, moving those lightning tanks around. Ooh, he's going to get the T2s. He'll get one of them at the very least. Can he get the second? Oh, just barely misses on the second. 3% health left remaining on that bad boy. Now, lightning tank isn't dead, though. It's going to continue rolling onto the back line here. Oh, eat it, eat it, eat it, eat it. Oh, slowly. 1% health remaining on this lightning tank back there. What a hero of a lightning tank. Meanwhile, Ragna's forces are continuing to sweep southernly, and they're going to encounter Chisato's commander lurking in the depths here. Those Buccaneers are going to have no problem dispatching torpedo bombs, or depth charges rather, in order to whittle that commander down very quickly. No time at all. At 2 depth charges a launch, you can see that commander goes down very fast. Buccaneers are very dangerous to deal with, and especially that T1 stuff just can't really compete. Submarines as well going to have a really hard time chasing, as those depth charge launches are just following behind them, starting to ravage them. And now you can see these Buccaneers tearing apart Lost Dead Man's base, and I think this is a game-winning push right here. If we can shut down the navies on the southern side. Oh, no, there is a destroyer out, or a battleship, rather. A dreadnought. Having a hard time navigating past this constructor here, getting a little turnaround. The dreadnought is very powerful, not to be underestimated at all. It can dish out an immense amount of firepower here. Going to be able to clean up, as well as the auxiliary forces of Lost Dead Man here, the push from Ragna. But still, that's a lot of damage that has been done, especially that commander going down. Now, there is tons of reclaim on the field here. So getting back into this isn't going to be impossible, but it's going to be very difficult to scale against Ragna, who has already been building up in the backlines. Yeah, a little bit of a pushback here. We're going to try and weasel our way through with a couple of these Riptides. However, it gets into the backline, finds that these constructors have been spaced out, so there's no easy chain reaction there. And Ragna will be able to hold on. Every single time that Ragna makes some sort of a play, I just end up looking at it like, wow, what a perfect situation that he's ended up in here. And it's like every decision along the way just ends up being tremendously efficient, from the spacing of those constructor turrets there to the use of those bombers. Everywhere you look, it's just super hyper efficient gameplay. That's what we love to see. Isn't that what we're all waking up here, up in the morning for? We don't play video games to have fun. No. We wake up in the morning to play video games, to hyper analyze every single aspect of the game and come up with the most efficient ways to play it. Buccaneers have made it critically far here into the base of 2-Second Hero, who is now dealing with this influx of blue forces. Not going to be long before all of this falls to the laser fire coming out of those twin heavy cannons mounted atop those Buccaneers' heads, as well as those auxiliary light cannons firing beams of red-hot laser energy into everything around here. Yeah, Buccaneers are sort of the catch-all unit. Looks like with that, the red team will decide that they've had enough. Ragna has crushed them to oblivion, as well as the auxiliary support here. Insane plays from Sensible Insane. Pushing through the middle of the map, crushing that with ease. Very, very nicely done. Hard-fought battle down south, but eventually there was just too much efficiency. Ragna earning the golden cow. Hard to say that that was unexpected, huh? Especially with the economies of 2 players behind his back. That's a, yeah, you can see the economic growth was just always in Ragna's favor. And he knew where to put those metal at the right time in order to shut down the critical parts of the red team. What an absolutely phenomenal player. Always a treat to get to see one of these epic games between some high-level players. Hope you enjoyed. This was a bit of a shorter one, but it was an epic one. High octane in a low amount of time. That's what I'm all about. Getting into that action and getting out in a timely manner. I will see you in the next video. Peace out, folks.